It's Alex with Epicenter Games, and I'm excited because Halloween's coming up. Walking Dead is back on, and I think the only way that this show could get better is if they had celebrity appearances. And I don't mean like Samuel L. Jackson or Nicolas Cage. I mean I would love to see Justin Bieber get mauled by an entire group of zombies and them to show him getting ripped apart, or just Miley Cyrus trying to twerk off some zombies and getting her face ripped off and other stuff like that. It would be really good. Today I'm doing a late night showing of the building here, and what I wanted to go over was something that we all really enjoy but is really complicated to come up with, and that is barrels. Barrels are really simple, they're really industrious, and it's taken me a long time to try and figure out exactly how to do these things. Excuse me. Energy drink, Barb. Anyways, trying to figure these little guys out has taken me a long time, and I finally figured out the trick to it before I decided to start just resin casting and doing them on my own. I've sold a ton of these, but beforehand, for years when I was trying to build, my only option was to go out and to buy little grayscale ones like this. There were 3 in a pack, a bunch of them for $20. There's a whole bunch of other stuff I didn't really care about. And so if I was trying to do an entire table of just waste cans like that, it would the barrels, it was ridiculously expensive, and I finally had to give up on it. Except for I didn't. I just kind of sat down and tried to figure out how I could come up with it. So I finally decided a cheap way. What I'll be showing you guys today aren't going to be as awesome as my awesome resin cast ones that you can purchase on epicentergame.com. What I'm going to do is show you how to do a really cheap, simple homemade one involving PVC piping, super glue, and some white plastic card. Now, most of us who are hobbyers know exactly what white plastic card is. The problem is okay, so we're going to get started on these barrels here. First step, Johnny Safety. I am not Johnny Safety, as I've said millions of times, and you guys will view over the course of these videos. However, getting my fingers stuck together pretty severely and other things with super glue and everything, it's pretty simple just to go out and get a box of these gloves. I got the extra large ones from Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever it was. It's I don't know, $10 or something like that for 100 of them. So it's just easiest to keep me from, getting it crammed in my fingernails and everything like that. Okay, so the first step that we're going to do is you're going to want to go ahead and find some PVC pipe. Now, you can find this in different sizes, as you see here. And you'll see it usually in lengths of 6 feet, or different long cuts of it. When you go to one of those home improvement stores, you're going to find white PVC pipe. Now, I just say that because some people know what it is, some people won't. But you go to the plumbing aisle, and it's just this pliable, soft plastic that really kind of bends and other stuff like that. And it's pretty easy to work with. So I'm going to get this. I've got my cutting mat again, already getting paint on it because I'm messy like that. A couple other items that I'm going to use are, I love my little bone saw here. This is just a fat-necked X-Acto. You recognize the handle if you go into the X-Acto section to buy, and usually it comes with this little blade here. A lot of you will be familiar with this setup here that you see, and the fat X-Acto knife. Well, they have a reconnection for it here. That's this bone saw it's got these ridges on it here that cut into it really nice. And again, you have to be careful with this because if you do cut into yourself, it will go down to the bone. This thing is pretty sharp, but it's much nicer than using a larger hacksaw or vine saw or anything else like that. Okay, so another thing that we're going to want to use is we're going to use this plastic card. Now, I promised you guys a little secret here a few minutes ago over how you can get your hands on plastic card. Because the plastic card that's normal is usually in different thicknesses like this. It comes in sheets this size. But for me, when I lived up in Alaska, sometimes moving around I'd have a hard time finding a hobby place that actually carried plastic card. So there's tons of places that you can actually get this white PVC plastic card that comes in sheets like this. And the secret is, are you ready for it? garage sale signs. It's just that simple. All of these garage sale signs are made of the same white PVC card that others are made out of. Using this side, you just cut right into it into strips like that. As you can see, I took notes on this one, scratching, but you can see right here, the black border here, it's just easiest to cut into. Now this stuff is pretty thin, so it's not going to work for everything. Some people like to build different bits out of it and other things like that. This is pretty thin, but it's going to work well for you. So, of course, I've got my super glue. Again, I love the Loctite stuff that I have, and also for later on in the project, I've got myself a hole punch here, but if you notice, the hole punch on it, hopefully, as you can see, is a lot thinner and a much smaller hole punch. You can get hole punches in different size than the standard notebook office hole punch. These are usually in stationery and other things like that, but this one has much smaller holes in it. As you can see here as I'm about to punch, you'll see the normal notebook size. The holes are much smaller. Now, this is a great size. I think this is a 1/18. I forget the exact size, but it's really great because as you're punching holes through different things, it's almost the exact size of bullet holes, so you can use it in sighting and other things like that. Anyways, what we're going to do, really simply, is we're going to start off with the PVC and we're going to mark 1 inch. Now, it's easiest to mark 1 inch off the edge here, so I go over to my side, and I'm going to go ahead and mark this 1 inch. Really simple, and then I go cutting into it. Okay? Going to keep my fingers apart from it. Whatever, you guys know. Don't cut your fingers off. Don't be an idiot. Just go into this stuff, probably speed the video up. But as it's cutting through this, really simple. It gets pretty quick holding on to it. I can just really rip through this thing. And as I push through it, it really just cuts into it. I mean, it really goes through really well like that. So I've got my small piece here. The problem is that sometimes when you're cutting, you get those diagonal angles in there because it's kind of hard unless you have some sort of vise box or something like that. They sell those. I don't really use that. You have some alternatives though for getting this down into a flat, because as you set it like that, see, it's about 1 inch tall, so Space Marines and other figures like that are going to be taller than the barrels, as they should be. It'll offer concealment and cover, but it's not supposed to be taller because that's not the way it is in any game or in real life at all. Pieces of sandpaper, you can take it and you can just go ahead and scrape down until you get a flat surface here. It's making the white streak because it's shaving it down. One of the things I did is I went to an art store. I got one of these thick metal files. I love this thing because as I use it, it just takes less time because it's much more abrasive. Okay, and just work this out. Skip this part of the video for you. It'll be really easy. Working on this. So, okay, so now I've got my barrel pretty much set. You know, I'm still getting it done. Lay it flat to see how well it's angled. This one's pretty flat, really simple like that. Working off some edges, making sure that it's just absolutely flat, grinding against that. So that's really simple. The next step, you're going to want to take your garage sale plastic sign or whatever you want to use. Set it down, take your pencil, take your pen, whatever your marker, and just go ahead and start marking those circle edges. Now this is the part that's kind of boring, giving you the exact instructions, blah blah blah. Again, I've watched tons of how to do it videos, and it does get pretty boring. But this is going to be simple enough, so I go ahead, snap these out. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and knock these out for you. Just like that. They're pretty simple. You don't need them too advanced or anything like that. Pull up my X-Acto knife right here. I'm going to zip these out real quick. I'm going to be careful. Now the reason why you want to be careful on these turns is because these are circles and they are going to be hugging the exact edge of this. So if you're not careful, you don't cut them to be an exact circle, you're going to end up with misshapen edges and all of this other stuff. And the key to detail on these things is excellent, because if you take just a couple extra minutes to make sure that your detail is excellent, let's face it, you could end up using these for the rest of your life, handing them down, other stuff like that. So again, these are just really simple, really easy. How-to videos sometimes can be boring because you're watching somebody else do something. So, anyways. Alright, so I've got this done here. I've got both ends. I'm going to want to cap both ends just like in this thing. And then also one of the other things that a barrel has is it's got that little opener nozzle right there. Usually in real life they'll unplug that thing, pour out whatever's in there. It's the tiny little details that end up making something look legitimate. So with my hole punch here, I poked out the holes, but hiding in this little cavern right here are, as I pop that open, I get a few of my little hole punch shavings out. Now these freaking jerks are hard to get a hold of, and so when little pieces of plastic like this I'm trying to get a hold of, I found that trying to do them with my finger and then put them on the glue space is too hard, so I use a toothpick, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Okay, let's get to gluing after one more thing. I'm going to take a few of these pieces over here, move them, and the last thing is we're just going to want a little rim for the barrel here. Usually they have that detail. Again, some of mine you see these little detailed rings here. We're not going for tremendous detail, just enough that when somebody looks at it they go, oh, okay, that's a barrel. If you want to go through more detail, oh crap, I hate it when I hit this thing. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so now I've got my pieces here. They're just really simple like that. We're going to go ahead and knock out some glue. Okay, this should be pretty easy. You don't need much, just a few dabs of it. Again, this is what the gloves are for, because I'm having to touch this nonsense. I'm going to set it right down on. Boom. Okay, just going to let that sit for a second. Glue the top edge. Let gravity do the work for me and hold it down. I'm going to take this bad boy now. Usually, sometimes you can use your finger, pick things up or whatever. But right now, one of the things I'm going to use, I'm just going to tap my X-Acto knife in here. It's not really going to leave a mark, but it keeps the glue off of my fingers so that I can touch it right there. Tap it in. Tap, tap, tap. Glue is off my fingers, and if you've made a little pinprick hole with your X-Acto knife, I've figured out how to not do it, then you'll be able to cover it up in just a minute. Now this little drum topper nozzle that's here, again, go back over that, just the tiniest drop, let it take it, and then for me, what I end up doing is, you know, I've got to get this little plastic piece here, and if I'm trying to do it with my finger, I end up getting glue and all this other stuff, so what I do is I take a toothpick, okay? And when I take my toothpick, all I do is I lick the tip of it, just the tip of the toothpick, just to get a little bit of wet on there, and then I will touch the plastic, and if you see, it's holding on there, just enough that it's just not shaking off, and then when I go to touch it to the top of the canister, it takes it. So as you can see, the glue itself has more suction than the toothpick does, and the topper is now on there. Now I'm just going to wait for it to glue and harden and set up. The next step is going to be connecting this right here, which is this piece. I don't want to do it this way because that's the garage sale paint sign, but this side is white. So what I'll end up doing is I'm going to take some long nose pliers. These are really easy to get a hold of. Now, like me in the past, I would just take my fingers and go ahead and go over it, and I would hold it in place, but I end up getting glue on my fingers and other stuff like that. So one of the easiest things to do is to take this guy, set it in place with my fingers around the center of the barrel, and usually I go ahead and leave an extra bit of length on there because as you can see it's overlapping like that because I'm going to pinch it together. Alright, so we're back and this barrel is now dried. So I'm going to show you simplest way to cover this bad boy, again with my gloves on. Taking this, I go and get some folk art. Got a kind here called Gun Metal Gray. Like I said, pro paints are amazing. The bottles that I have, I save for my minis. I love working with my stuff. I love painting it and doing all of the details on it, but I do not use any serious pro paints on any of the small terrain like this, because it costs so much. You want to save it. Now, some of the stuff that I have that's super detailed that I have for sale on my website at epicentergame.com, of course I use my pro paints because, you know, it looks much better. But for some of this stuff that I like to do that's just for home games and other things like that I know are going to get banged up, bruised and banged, I just go ahead and take. So what I do with this is I go ahead and take my wheel, slightly squeeze it, some comes out of the top, and instead of squeezing a whole bunch of paint into a paint dish or anything like that, I just use the top of this thing. I squeeze a little bit out at a time, and I go ahead and that way I can just use this as my palette. I can have 3 or 4 paints up, and I'm just using the top of the lid itself, and it's really simple. Paint saver too. A lot of people spend money on paint savers. I don't have to. When I'm done with the paint, even though it's wet on there, I just close the lid. When I come back later, it's still wet because there's just a little bit there. So I go ahead and use one of my crap brushes. These are one of those ones you can find in a art store or something like that that's like 50 cents. It's a crappy brush. You can get them at dollar stores and other stuff. And you just begin to go over it. It's just really simple. So I go with the grain like this. Not worried about getting my fingers painted on or anything like that. And I just do a coat. Now it's a rapid coat here, slipping all over the place because, again, aluminum and tin that comes on these barrels naturally, these thick barrels here, are always kind of scrappy looking to begin with, and the metal is twisted around and other stuff, so it isn't this clean chrome look. So go back over this. It's really simple. Take another spin, turn, go extra over areas, boom, 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 boom. Now this is the end of the video, of course. This is just showing you guys how to do some simple paint on here. And going over the bottom, being really simple with the paint, doing that. I go over the top like there. You see this little nub that's here. This is going to work for you because it's going to give it that little bit of detail. And then if you want to, you can go back over. It because this is going to need to dry now that my fingers have been all over it. And once it dries, I'll just do a second coat. So, whoops, topping this off. It looks like a beat up old drum. Once it dries, it's going to look a lot better as I have. And again, in comparison, it's just a really simple toxic drum. You get 2 or 3 of these together and all of a sudden it starts. Hope you guys enjoy that, because over the years of building terrain and doing other things, I just kind of wish I had some more videos ready available that taught me how to do quick and simple stuff. A lot of videos are really complex, really detailed, and they're great. I'm going to be doing a lot more of those videos. But I love doing the simple stuff because people are just getting into the game. You know, they don't want to spend all of this time coming up with incredibly detailed stuff. Now, this is some of the stuff that I do. This is a chemical refinery. Again, this is something that I have for sale on my website at epicentergame.com. So I don't spend all of my time doing the really simple stuff. You know, this is one of the things that I love to do, and I started getting into it. But not everybody wants to do really incredibly complex pieces like that. They just want to put a few really simple pieces together. It's not going to cost them an arm and a leg. Put them out so that they can play the game. Now, one of the next pieces that I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do is going to be another complicated piece to get a hold of and expensive is just some simple razor wire. This is something that I put together. I'm going to be showing you. It's really simple razor, really simple wire and everything like that. But once you got it, you can set some of these pieces down as tank tops and other things like that. So cheap, easy, simple, basic, awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Some more of my complex stuff is going to be coming up that takes much longer. And again, I have a lot more complex pieces on epicentergame.com. We're on Twitter under Epicenter Game. We are on Facebook under Epicenter Game. We are going to, I think we are on Pinterest at Epicenter Game, and so just go ahead and follow us, put us out there. I'm really hoping to get more people involved in this, and yeah, let me know what your feedback is. Let me know your comments.